Hello, 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 hello. Another day, another trying to get OBS to work successfully. Like this is it's so funny because I spent the first chunk of this week. I had some presentations I had to work on for some like cryptocurrency stuff for a few job interviews I've been looking at, like in the blockchain space. So I've been like super deep down, like trying to figure out hard hat and trying to figure out truffle and figure out when to use truffle, when to use hard hat, or if you even use truffle anymore. And I spent time trying to figure out like what the flip alchemy was. And like I'm learning all this, like trying to figure out all this tooling and everything on the blockchain space, and then comes to like just starting a stream with OBS. Like I open it up and it's complaining about my API key. I still don't know. I managed to get the chat to work, but in order to get the chat to work, I had to move it over to this window. It's it's crazy how complicated this OBS stuff. But that being said, how's it going, to Z? Oh, I see a Z and I see a Wizard of Arc. So I see probably two accounts, one person. So I saw some discussion in the chat about like an hour ago. I haven't been checking the chat the last couple of days because I've been doing a lot of like job interview prep stuff. So I haven't been keeping up to the chat, but I looked at some of the articles that was linked in there and some of the Anki stuff. First, I want to reach out to Greg. Let me just switch my screen share for a moment because he had some Anki questions. So if I click through here, let's see if my hotkeys work. Let's see. I spent like an hour trying to get hotkeys working. So there we go. I can see why they get the little stream deck because right now I have the scenes mapped to different keys on my keyboard. So like here's the main one, and then this. That alone, that took like an hour to figure out, but now we're here. So Greg had some questions on Anki. I've gone so deep into this program learning Chinese. Actually, starting this Monday, I've signed up for in-person classes at a school in Taiwan for Chinese. So it's gonna be like 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, because I'm tired of not being able to I'm tired of not being able to read. like I'm tired of just going into restaurants here and just not being able to read stuff. I'm tired of like a delivery person calling me on the phone and I don't even know if they're a delivery person. So before I had a private teacher that I was doing like 1 hour a day of lessons. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do 3 hours a day, Monday to Friday, and then private lessons 1 hour Saturday, 1 hour Sunday, and then on top of that, for anyone who's out in Taipei, my girlfriend and I have been organizing these like Chinese language learning meetups, which has been pretty fun. We did our first one about a week ago, and it went really, really well. But like people really liked it. I got like a little picture. Wait, I'll show you the picture I made. It's fun. It's cool. I put it on my fridge. So this was a cute little exercise. She had us go through. So there was like 6 of us in this meetup. She organized all the content. I just helped her like do basic marketing. Like I helped her make like a meetup.com event, but she organized all the content. So there are 6 of us in this nice little coffee shop slash gallery, and met some new friends. And the game we kind of played was 3 truths and a lie. And so what you had to do is you had to draw, was it 3 or 4? I think it was 4 truths and a lie. So you had to draw like 4 things that were true about you. So we had like questions like, oh, do you have any pets? What's your hobby? What's your job? And so you had to draw 4 things that were true and 1 that was a lie. And like my drawing is not great, as you can see. like this one here, there was a picture. I was trying to draw a picture of a dog here, but it didn't work out. But it was really fun. It was a good way to practice practice speaking Chinese, and it was a good way to meet some new friends too. Because I'm realizing the real trick is getting that accountability network together too. And so we're gonna keep doing, like my girlfriend and I are gonna keep organizing those Chinese language learning meetups in Taipei, try to grow out the community there. And on top of that, things have opened up quite a bit over the last like 2 months here. So live events have started happening again over the last 2 months. The meetup, I'm trying to get more involved in like the cryptocurrency and blockchain space, like in person here. I'm already meeting, I'm meeting some fun characters, just kind of going around at bars and at parties. And it seems like there's a good, because of how close Taipei, I think it's because of how close Taiwan is to Hong Kong and to mainland China. There's like kind of a good community of like cryptocurrency blockchain enthusiasts here too. So I'm gonna keep y'all updated on that. That being said, in the chat, a day or so ago, I saw Greg ask a question about the plugins I use to autofill these Anki cards. So I'm gonna give you two. So one was this, the one that I mentioned in a previous video was this Chinese support Redux. I'll paste the link in the chat so I don't forget. Here. That was the first one. And what that allows you to do, just for a quick refresher, is if you do add, it gives you this new like card type here called Chinese Advanced or Chinese Basic. And what it does is it reads the name of the fields and then autofills the fields based on input from it. So let's say if you have a new vocab word, actually this is a good time. I just finished a Chinese lesson. Here's like a new vocab word that I want to put in. I can just copy that from my lesson notes, paste it in this field, hit tab, and it fills in the pinyin, fills in the bopomofo, which is like the Taiwanese keyboard, which I don't use, but like everyone here uses this keyboard. Fills in the English definition, simplified, traditional, anything you can't figure out, it just leaves blank, and then lets you, gives you the option for an image too. So usually what I do here is I go to images.google.com. I'll type in the Hanzi image, and it looks like this word. What does this word to mean again? Plan. Okay, it means plan. So now I kind of look for an image that seems like a plan to me. It looks like this kind of image. It feels pretty planny. So the thing with picking images, it's really, you gotta follow your heart here. You can autofill most fields, but you can't autofill the image because you have to pick an image that relates to you. I know that sounds kind of dumb, but it really does make a big difference. Like to me, this really looks like a good image to represent like plan. But maybe to someone else, like this one could be a good image. And then from there, again though, the main thing is being able to take this Hanzi and just automatically get the pinging, automatically get all this other stuff is freaking great. So I'm gonna replace English as plan and hit add. And on top of that, it also fills in the sound. It goes to Google Translate and makes a sound clip too. So that's a killer one. That plugin is called Chinese Support Redux. I pasted the link below. Now I have a ton of different add-ons, but really the two key ones that are absolute game changers are this one and this awesome text-to-speech plugin, which has some questionable marketing, but this one's also very, very, very killer. And the reason why is it lets you bulk edit audio fields. So what do I mean by that? So one of the tricks I do is I find pre-made decks for whatever textbook I'm working on. So here's a good example. I found a pre-made deck for this Chinese textbook. Where is it? I basically Googled the name of this book, Anki deck. I found the deck. I need to get a bookshelf instead of a floor, step by step. And then from here, I'm able, if I go to browse, when I first got this deck, there was no audio. And I really like having audio for these cards. I think it's really important. Because Chinese is a tonal language. Even if you add the little tone marks, I find myself like forgetting what it sounds like, and it just makes it a lot easier to memorize if I hear it being spoken to me. So what I was able to do is I added an audio field, and then from here, by using this awesome TTS plugin, you can highlight. Let's see if I can find some that I don't have. I think I already added audio to all these cards. Yeah, I have, but just for example, you can highlight a bunch of these cards that don't have audio. Click on here, click add audio to selected, and then asks what the source field is and the destination field is. And so if you get if you find a deck of 500 cards, that's already done a lot of work for you, but it's missing audio. This plugin's killer because you can highlight a bunch, find the source field. The nice thing about Anki cards, they're all usually very simple, so there'll be a source field called Chinese or a source field called text. Highlight the cards, click generate, and then what it'll go through, these already have the audio, so I don't want to click generate now, but it'll go through every single card, send an API request to whatever sound engine you want. I like the Azure one. I think it sounds a lot nicer. And what you can do is you can add multiple sound engines, so it'll randomly use a different voice. So what I've done is I found a Chinese-speaking Taiwanese accent male voice on Azure and a Chinese-speaking Taiwanese accent female voice. So when it goes through all these 100 cards that you've downloaded from somewhere else, it'll randomly pick male and female. So you get different. I think it's better for listening because you can kind of hear what it would sound like in a male voice and a female voice on different cards. But this plugin has been really great because of the bulk editing feature. Because I've found, as I've been using Anki consistently, you start adding more and more cards and it really builds up. So now I have like 1,000 plus cards. And so when I find a tool, I want to be able to apply it to all my previous cards. And since all my cards have a field called Chinese, because they all have a field for text, I was able to go through and back edit like 1,000 plus cards with this tool and give them all much better audio. So that's another killer one. I think I've pasted it below in the chat. Yes, I have. So those are the two main ones I super recommend. For this awesome text-to-speech audio one, there's a free version and a paid version. The free version lets you use, I think it limits you to like 100 edits, and the paid version doesn't. So it was definitely worth paying for. Right now I'm paying $5 a month for it, USD, because I keep adding cards, and so I keep wanting to have that limit. But if you're just starting out, just use the free version. I noticed if you use the free version, you get put into this marketing funnel. You get put in this marketing funnel by them. and then a week after using the free version, they send you an email saying like, "Oh, do you want to extend your trial?" Blah blah, and they increase your limit. But I liked the tool so much, so I bought it within 20 minutes of downloading because the value of being able to hear the audio for cards was just absolutely killer. Besides that, let's see if there's any other tools off the top of any other plugins off the top of my head. Those were the two main ones. I'll close this. If I go to, I have so many plugins that it kind of slows things down. Oh, the other one, if you really want to nerd out on this, there's a YouTube channel called Anki, which I love. Where is it? Anki Palace. This guy's a medical school student, so I've noticed the two main topics Anki people really lean on are language learning and medical school exams, which makes a lot of sense because in order to learn a language, you gotta like memorize a bunch of words, and in order to pass medical school, you gotta memorize a bunch of like symptoms. I guess I'm not a doctor. Symptoms and disease solutions, cures. I guess I don't know. You gotta know what you got. You basically gotta memorize a lot of stuff. And on this fella's website, he's put together a list of all his favorite add-ons and configured them all really nicely, so they all work really nicely together. This will turn Anki from like a Ford Fiesta into a Ferrari. So I'll drop this link in the channel below too. Highly recommend watching this guy's videos. He has like 200 Anki videos. I went down a rabbit hole and watched like 2 hours worth of his videos. But these include tools for like batch editing. He has one that makes it really easy to like cover up images and generate cards from covered up images. I haven't used that one yet, but I plan to use it soon because my girlfriend, who's, like I mentioned, is Chinese teacher, she made this perfect image. I wonder if I have it online. She made this perfect image explaining all the steps you need to order boba tea. Let's see if I can dig this up really quick because it was like one of the coolest things ever. So, for anyone who doesn't know, in Taiwan, boba tea is like a big deal. There's like it's within 5-minute walk of my house. There's at least 5 boba tea stores. But ordering boba tea is actually pretty complicated. It's complicated in English because there's so many different choices. Like, do you want this kind of do you want tapioca balls? Do you not want tapioca balls? How much ice do you want? How much sugar do you want? But luckily, it follows the same pattern where they ask you for your base order, they'll ask you how much ice, they'll ask you how much sugar, and then they'll ask for if you want a receipt or not. But so Zoe, she put together. Let's see if I can find the image. I'm just looking for the image on another screen. I can't find it, but she put together this nice little image that takes you step by step through ordering boba tea. So I kind of want to turn that into an Anki deck. Like just have every single boba tea order you can have, or have every single boba tea order that I like, and just be able to memorize them. Because right now I have like 2 different boba tea orders memorized. But eventually I'll get tired of that and want to try other ones. What other plugins does he have here? Those are the main ones for language learning. But again, that's why like my Anki setup has this cool like heat map. It has this cool calendar. Got 69 streaks. 69 streak, that means I've been studying every single day consistently for almost 70 days. That's great. Yeah, all in all, just a lot of really handy plugins that really makes a difference. Because the less friction you have adding cards, the less friction you have to actually study, the more likely you are to study. So I found the two big things for studying. One is reducing friction, reducing friction to study. So like buying Anki on your phone, totally worth it, because then when you're on the subway, you're just more, and you just see it on your phone, you're more likely to just study something. So you can reduce friction for studying, and then I'll increase friction for not studying. So what do I mean by that? So what I've done is I set up a screen time. I set up a screen time password on my phone. I actually had my girlfriend make the screen time password. So anytime after 9:30 at night or before 9 in the morning, the only apps I can use on this phone are language learning apps, and then like things like Google Calendar and Uber, like just the absolute bare minimum. So what I found now is in the mornings, I can't use my phone to watch YouTube. It's just like, it's like a parental control lock. I can't use my phone to watch YouTube, and since I don't know the screen time password, I can't even get around it. And so what I found looking back at my like Anki history, I think you can see it here, in the stats tab. Oops. I have this like Pokey Anki plugin. I don't think it's that good. I kind of confused how it works. Here we go, in the stats tab. So if we look in the stats tab, you can see this is the amount of times that I'll review between 8 and 9 in the morning. And you can see how high it is. That's 100% because now between 8 and 9, when I wake up in the morning, I can't watch YouTube on my phone. I can't do anything fun on my phone whatsoever. And so instead what I'm doing is I'm studying, because I've increased the friction to not study and decrease the friction to study. And so anything you do to decrease friction to study, increase the friction to not study. And then the final trick I found is having some sort of accountability. And so the best, like the one big way to get that accountability, one of the ways I've done is just by moving to Asia, because like not being able to speak Chinese well directly affects my life every day. How's it going, Bo? Just going over some of this Anki stuff, talking about how important it is to increase the reduce the friction. Well, what did I say? Reduce the friction to study, increase the friction to not study, and then the last one is add some sort of accountability. So the way I've added accountability, one was getting a Chinese teacher, a private one. Now that's incredibly important. Because if you're in a class of like 30 people, 40 people, like in college, and you sit in the back of the class, you can kind of get away with not doing your homework. But if you show up to a private lesson and you haven't done your homework, it's like you feel dumb and you feel embarrassed. And so because I want to avoid that feeling of being dumb and embarrassed, I always do my homework. Well, I 99% of the time do my homework for these private lessons, so you can increase accountability there. The other trick I found for increasing accountability that I kind of want to experiment with is I have the idea of, I started writing down this idea like last night, so I'm still trying to figure out the details. But I have the idea of setting up, now that like my girlfriend and I are organizing these language learning meetups. We've started like a little line group on that too. But I have the idea of setting up a challenge where everyone throws in like a significant amount of money. So let's say like 500 American dollars, like a good amount of money, into a pool, and have it set up so we keep each other accountable to do our reviews on Anki or do our reviews on Skritter. And if at any point you don't do, we'll do like a 1 month challenge. And if at any point during that 1 month, if you don't if you don't finish all your studying, like you don't finish studying all your cards, or you don't finish doing what you said you're gonna do, you lose the 500 American dollars. And so I thought about getting a bit nerdy on that and turning it into a smart contract, and then tying Anki into the smart contract with Chainlink. But I realized like I could also just make a PayPal account. And the people will just trust that we would hold on to the money. Like, we don't need to be completely trustless for that. But that could be a cool idea for a hackathon project too. But the point there is, anything you can do to set up accountability will help immensely for language learning. I know, Bo, what you did something similar. You just had private Spanish lessons every day, 2 hours a day, while you're living in South America. Like, the likelihood of you practicing when you're by yourself is much lower than the likelihood of you practicing when you're literally have someone sitting across the table from you, like waiting for you patiently to like read. Like, that was a good example today. For example, today I was reading a story in my Chinese textbook about like a family who are moving into a new house, and they're trying to figure out where to place the furniture. And man, very simple story, but like I'm gonna be real with myself. I'm not gonna sit there and try to read aloud myself for an hour straight. Like, I might do it for 10 minutes, but then give up. But when I have a teacher that I'm paying for, and she's sitting there waiting for me to read the story about whether or not they're going to put the couch by the television, or they're going to or where they're going to hang up the photo, like, you'll actually do it. So those have been the three main keys: the accountability, reducing friction to study, and increasing the friction to not study. Been three major ones. The other thing Bo was mentioning is take lessons and date a non-English speaker. So I've done that trick too. I went one step further and started dating a Chinese teacher. Not the same one that I was taking lessons from, but coincidentally a different one. That's helpful too. But the issue is if you speak English, the likelihood of another person speaking English and just switching to English in the middle of the conversation is really high, because a lot of people can speak a little English. So a common problem I found is I'll go to the store, like I'll walk over to the boba tea store and order some boba tea in Chinese, and they just look at me as like a white person with a really strong English accent, and they'll switch right into English. And so a lot of my foreigner friends, like myself, will then switch to English. They'll be like, oh, I guess we're speaking English. And so what I have to do instead is just power through and speak Chinese. Okay, have a great night, Bo. So what I'll do is power through and speak Chinese, and just keep powering through, and eventually they switch to Chinese too. So that's been a good way to get in some practice there as well. So those have been some of the plugins I've been using on Anki. Now from there, Jeff posted in the Discord this article. I thought this was a really, really interesting one, called File Not Found. I'm going to post this in the chat in case people are curious. So this was in the Discord channel. I'm going to post a link to the Discord channel now, so you guys can join if you want. We're actually starting to get a good group of people. I'm not a good... everyone there is already a good person, but I mean, we're getting more and more people in the chat, so we're starting to get some more conversations, which is fun. So I'll drop a link to the Discord too, in case y'all want to join. Copy, paste. Oh, oops, I copied the text. I didn't copy the link. Copy a link to highlight? What's that mean? Come on, you think I know how to copy a link? There we go. Sorry about that. Trying to copy and paste. Okay, so this article Jeff shared in the chat called File Not Found, and talking about a generation that grew up with Google is forcing professors to rethink their plans. So the summary of this article is talking about a teacher in a university who had to explain how folders worked because their students didn't actually know like there's folders on their computer, because they're so used to being able to just find stuff using tools like Google Drive and Mac OS, where you just type in a search box and the file pops up. And Jeff asked if other people have run into this, like while in an academic setting. And it's really funny because about 5 or 6 years ago, one of my friends, she's a voice teacher. She teaches singing, and she was teaching mostly to high school students. So yeah, about 5 years ago, mostly to high school students. And during one of her lessons, they wanted to be able to. She's telling her student, "Oh, you can. We'll record a video of you singing, and then I'll send you the file, and you can edit the video and upload it to YouTube." And her student said like dead like straight face, like, "Oh, what's a file?" And she said, like, "What do you mean?" Like, a file. He's like, "I don't know what a file is." And then she said, "Well, how do you upload your other videos on YouTube?" And he said, "Oh, on the camera app on my phone, there's a button that says upload video to YouTube. Like, that's how I know how to do it." So Jeff asked if anyone had run into other people who've experienced this, anyone who's like maybe someone who's a bit younger who is smart but doesn't know anything about files. And I'm telling you, I'd say this is pretty much the new normal. There is this kind of period in time. I think anyone between the ages of like maybe 27, I'll say, to 38, 27 to 38, or like 27 to 42, that group of time was when computers were being introduced, but they still weren't like really perfect, really nice user experiences. And so you were just kind of forced to figure stuff out. So a good example was like back then there was no, for me anyway, there was no Facebook. And so instead of making like a Facebook page, I made my own personal website, and from there I taught myself HTML, taught myself CSS, and I attribute making that personal website to drawing me towards the career path of being a software engineer. It was that time when I wanted to make a personal website. I wanted to figure out how to make the marquee tag, the text like scroll across the screen, and then I wanted to figure out how to make it blink at the same time. So the first two HTML and CSS things I learned were the marquee tag and the blink tag to make it go across. But now, like, people don't really have to do that anymore. And so this article is talking about professors having a hard time explaining folders and using the command line. That being said, I really don't think this is that big of a deal. And so it's saying one example they had was now a lot of professors are having like a 2-hour class explaining how to use the command line and how to use the terminal at the beginning of their semester. And honestly, I don't think that's that big of a deal. I know like learning how to use terminal is something everyone kind of has to learn, especially if you're in like a STEM field. But you only have to learn it when you're doing like programming or any sort of computer researchy work related stuff. And so it doesn't really pop up until you actually have to do it. I learned how to use a terminal when I was a lot younger because I was making websites and I had to learn how to upload stuff. And I remember I had to learn how to run the chmod command in order to make the PHP files work when I was teaching myself PHP. But I think having people, like having a 1-2 hour class at the beginning of a first year course on terminal and directory stuff, I don't think that's that big of a deal. I don't think we're really missing that much. But it is going to show you, though, I think the one thing that really helped me, one of the things that helped me realize is I actually know, just for the fact that I know about folders, I know about the command line, I know about a lot of the simple stuff. Every once in a while, I'll have imposter syndrome thinking, I don't really know what I'm doing. Like, there's so much people smarter than me. And then I see articles like this where a big chunk of the population doesn't even know what a folder is. It makes me feel a lot better. It's like, okay, I know some stuff. I can be useful, especially in this world. And a great example of this, and this like technology gap, is whenever I speak to my girlfriend who's a teacher, and most of her teacher friends too, like they don't like technology at all. Teachers and doctors, I've noticed, generally, not all of them, but a big chunk of teachers and doctors don't like tech. And I think it's because in the teacher situation, you already have so much to worry about when you're leading a class. You have to put together a lesson plan. You have to like make sure you can control the room. There's all these things you have to think about before you give any sort of presentation, that you want to remove as many variables as possible for things that might be able to go wrong. And as we all know, the one thing we can count on with technology is that it's going to break. And so I think because their experiences with technology is something goes wrong, like the video chat doesn't work, or this tool doesn't work, or Google Classroom, like something always goes wrong. Teachers have the habit of trying to lean away from technology, removing that dependency entirely from their lesson. And so they can focus on, actually teaching instead of playing around with technology. And so I think that's fine. So what I like to do is I like to I'll help my girlfriend out with technology stuff with some of her lesson plans and help her test out the video calls and stuff like that first, especially when she had to switch to remote for a few months because of the pandemic. But that being said, it is really goes to show you that the little skills you pick up along the way really do add up. And a lot of these bits of knowledge end up going away after a while. So that's a link to the article. I posted it below. Thanks again, Jeff, for showing this. I thought it wasn't surprising because I had quite a few friends who were music teachers who teach high school kids, so I've already seen that coming. But it goes to show you, I like this quote too: take their phones away and get them on Windows 98 to show them how to use folders. That was everything here. So that sums up everything for my week this week. I'm planning on doing more deep dive for next week. Now that I'm finished with a lot of these interviews, I'm going to go back. Well, starting next week, I'll be doing Chinese every single day. So my main focus for next week is going to be, again, more learning Chinese and more learning about ERC20 tokens and Ethereum stuff and some of the fundamentals. And depending on how much I do of each thing by next week, that'll be what I'll be talking about. So yeah, my main two focuses in life right now are learning Chinese and learning blockchain stuff. But that being said, thanks everyone for coming by. Really appreciate it. And I will catch you all next week. There we go.